Jorge, get Ikeda and everybody to start watching. Let's go live. Here we go. My guy, you in the building. What's up? Pete, you in the building?
Right here, bro. I'm ready.
All right, all right, all right. Hang tight. Let's see if we get some people following. I got some. How we sounding, Jorge? We in the building? Thumbs up
I
if we're
just told
good.
everyone to tune in 5 minutes.
We're in the building. Tell them go now. I'm really excited about today, man.
Me too, dude.
Oh man, these new headphones connected into the new jack is fire.
Are they?
Oh man, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. For everybody that's joined us thus far, thank you. And to those that are coming, we want to thank you as well. Welcome everybody. Today I have a special friend with me, my boy Pete from MSD in the building. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing well, AJ. Thanks for asking.
So what have you been up to?
Just getting the first month of Q4 off the ground, tackling problems, helping customers, taking care of partners. You know how it is.
Well, my guy Peter is actually the Chief Revenue Officer over at uh, Merchant Service Depot, and he has deep expertise in the market and where it's going and high risk merchant verticals, acquiring, gateway card issuing programs. Peter's actually worked directly with many merchants and ISOs. The merchants and ISOs that Peter have worked with have been able to create a stable, complex system that actually works. Pete, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing and what's going on over there before we dive into today's topic.
So our focus at MSD is around choosing the right partners for these different high risk verticals, right? It's critical that you understand kind of the personality of each of these sponsor banks and whatever provider you're going through, an ISO, a direct processor. It's really important to know, hey, they'll take this type of account if it looks this way. A lot of people hear, oh, we do nutraceuticals or direct marketing or CBD, and then you think you can just board any type of those at all. What you'll find is you start throwing in MPAs, and it's not quite the exact story that you might have been told. So, we really understand the banks that we work with. We know with each vertical, is a startup, does it have previous processing, what does the company look like? We know exactly which bank will take that type of business and that type of customer.
You
Um,
know,
on the partner side, we just like to take care of our ISOs and agents, constantly providing them with support, making really complex files easy to do.
Pete, great to have you here today. Again, thanks for the intro. High risk merchants today have always faced challenges, but lately, with the new VAMP rules, it's been a big topic, and that's something that I want to talk to you about today. For all those who aren't as deep in the weeds as Pete and I are, you can always start by Pete. If you could help us by start explaining a little bit of the VAMP rules and why it's actually going to be affecting so many merchants and why there's current merchants that are feeling pressured by it.
Absolutely, AJ. Great questions. It's something that people hear about. They know it might be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on where you fit in that chain. But basically, what VAMP is, it's VAMP, short for Visa Acquiring Monitoring Program. It's basically Visa's way of keeping a close eye on acquirers and the different merchants that they sponsor under them. In theory, it's meant to protect the card networks and consumers from fraud, excessive chargebacks, things like that. But in practice, especially for high risk merchants, it can feel like playing a game where the rules are kind of stacked against you. The thresholds for fraud and disputes are strict, and the penalties for even getting close to that line can result in a cancellation of your merchant account.
Wow. So essentially, it's not just the merchant who's under the microscope, it's also the acquirer, right?
Exactly. Visa kind of puts the responsibility on the acquirer to control the merchant behavior. And because you know how these guys are, they're underwriters, right? So they don't want to risk any fines or scrutiny, maybe reputational risk. They'll often cut ties with merchants the minute things start trending in the wrong direction. I know of one place that actually started shutting people's accounts off a few weeks ago because their decline rates were getting too high. It wasn't even the chargebacks.
So
For a high
just the
risk
decline
merchant,
rate?
yeah, even the decline rate can get you shut off. If you're above 30-40%, now they're really going to look at you. Maybe throw a couple chargebacks in there. You might wake up the next day and not be able to run payments. And that's where it stinks for the merchant because they often cut ties with them. Whether you're CBD, vape, nutraceutical, money service businesses, things like that, all of a sudden you're just dead in the water and you can't get funds into your business.
I guess that's a big deal because, I mean, most businesses, if the credit card processing stops, the business itself grinds to a halt.
Right, right. Yeah, no payments, no sales. And the thing is, many of these businesses are perfectly legitimate. They're licensed, they're compliant, they're servicing real customers, but because of the nature of their particular industry, they're constantly walking a fine line with this visa program.
So let's talk about some of the specific pain points merchants face under the new VAMP rules. And why would you say what's the number one challenge they face?
Well, I would say kind of the biggest challenge and kind of what everyone is majorly worrying about is exceeding the chargeback thresholds. So Visa sets a hard line, usually zero point 0.9 to 1%. And if a merchant goes over that, they risk being enrolled in like a monitoring program like VAMP, VDMP. Even with RDR, it still can't capture all that. So for a high risk business that naturally sees more customer disputes in general, it's a very, very tight margin.
And that is a lot of disputes. They're not even real fraud, right?
Yeah, exactly. Many are kind of what we call friendly fraud. Customer buys, say it's like a nutraceutical place. They buy a supplement, use it for a few weeks, and then, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe you're trying to grow your hair back, pills don't work, you don't have a big mean, and then they'll call back, charge back, say, hey, I didn't authorize this purchase. Or maybe someone forgot that they signed up for a subscription. They don't notice it for 90 days and then they initiate a chargeback. Those
You,
disputes count against the merchant just like actual fraud would, and that'll push their ratio higher and endanger their account.
you know what's crazy is I could just imagine all the people who try to buy weight loss supplements and they don't work, what they do. So I guess what I could say is, what do the merchants have as an option to fight back against that?
Well, that's where it's important to have a provider that works with you, takes a minute to actually understand your business, doesn't just throw a pile of application documents into a portal somewhere, right? And that's where Merchant Service Depot really steps in. Our tag gateway integrates with numerous fraud controls. We've got probably over 350 different velocity controls. Our gateway is really built for high risk merchants. That's our specialty. It's hard coded by us. It's not a white label of something else. So, you get certain programs set in like RDR, excuse me, a chargeback mitigation plan that you create with your client in addition to running Ethica Verify, the various services. Um, the goal of it all is basically, to allow the merchant to intercept the disputes before they even ever hit Visa systems, right? So if a customer complains, instead of that dispute becoming a formal chargeback, the merchant will get a chance to resolve it or refund it proactively. This is a program, AJ, that is going to really shake up our industry. You're way better off being proactive than reactive. By the time you need to be reactive, it's already too late to do something. And that's really what can make the difference between staying under the thresholds or, raising that flag and getting looked at hard, getting put on a monitoring program, or just closing your merchant account.
That sounds like a game changer. Stopping the problem before it counts against you is what you're basically saying.
Exactly. Like I said, it's the difference between being proactive and reactive. If you're just waiting to hear from Visa that you're over the line, it's kind of already too late for you.
Already too late. What about transparency? I heard a lot of merchants say they don't know where they stand until they're in trouble.
Yeah, that's another huge issue because it's not like Visa's gonna send you a live scoreboard or something, or even show you what they're doing. Most people don't even know that they're getting close to the violation until the acquirer, calls them in a panic. You might get a call from your sales agent. Hey, I got a notice this morning your account got shut down. I'm not sure what happened. I'll find out. You might not even get all the answers before you get shut off. With our gateway and the dashboards that we have, gives merchants real-time visibility into chargebacks, fraud rates, and the different thresholds. So instead of guessing, you can track all that right there. And if it's the third week of the month and you're at like 0.6, 0.7% chargebacks, it's definitely time to speak to your provider and put some things can help chargeback mitigation, gateway controls, things like that will help you lower that rate and get off the radar.
That takes away a lot from the surprise factor, which I imagine is one of the most biggest stressful parts, huh?
Exactly. Surprises are what often kills merchants. Like I just said, if you're at 0.8% and you have a few things pending, you've got to make a business decision for yourself or you might be out of business. Tighten your fraud filters, be proactive on the refunds, maybe even tweak your checkout process. There may be something in there that we see, hey, I'd make sure you send a confirmation thing that they track via email, text, something like that. But it's really, really important to get that insight or you're just flying blind with your business.
Let's touch on the acquirers for a second. You mentioned earlier that under the pressure from Visa 2, how
Yep.
does that trickle down to the merchant?
Well, when an acquirer sees a merchant approaching VAMP thresholds, a lot of times they will just go into self-preservation mode. So it could mean they're going to hold your reserve longer. Your reserve amount might increase. Maybe do a different type of rolling hold. Or in certain cases, just hey, we closed your account. Sorry, good luck finding another one. And that's really hard for merchants because a lot of these businesses, they're day to day. They're not everyone's rolling and processing dollars. So unfortunately for those kind of clients, from the acquirer perspective, it's safer to lose one merchant than getting risked the whole bin getting flagged by Visa.
Understood. And that's why a lot of high risk merchants feel abandoned, right?
Yeah, it's they feel like nobody wants to fight for them. And once you get to that point, honestly, there's not much you can do to fight it. You can send all the emails and messages in the world. Once Visa decides, they decide. So, that's why we've built the relationships that we've built with banks that really understand these industries and we understand them as well. So we present them the right way. They also won't overreact the first sign of trouble. They work with the merchant to fix the issue instead of just cutting them off.
So it's not just about the tools, it's about the right partnerships too, right?
Yeah, you can have all the tools in the world, but if your acquirer panics every time Visa blinks, you're still going to end up getting shut down.
So what about cost? I know merchants often feel, like compliance just means spending so much more money. Fraud tools, legal help, and, actually consultants too, right?
Yeah, it's a big issue for merchants. They many shell out, thousands of dollars a year on kind of piecemeal together solutions. You've got one vendor for fraud, another one for chargeback alerts, You've got a merchant portal to keep track of, probably a gateway, whether it be ours or NMI or OffNet or something like that. We consolidate all that into one portal for you. So instead of, juggling five vendors and being all over the place and paying five different bills, you get a streamlined setup with the right bank to underwrite you that's going to be a stable solution. And that covers your fraud monitoring, dispute prevention, and reporting all in one place.
That's going to make life a lot easier for merchants who already are juggling so much.
It really does, and I don't think there's really many merchants out there that are expecting a free pass or something like that. What I hear is I have an issue. I don't really understand why I'm having this issue. They're just asking for fair tools and a fighting chance. And that's what we bring to the table for them.
Peter, if you had to boil it all down, what advice would you give high risk merchants listening right now and who are worried about the VAMP?
Probably, and I would say this not only for merchants, but also for providers, sales agents, things like that. Don't wait for Visa to send you a letter. Be proactive. Get the right gateway in place. Partner with an acquirer that understands your industry and your particular business. Use chargeback mitigation before disputes spiral out of control. If you do those three things, you can run your business with confidence instead of, oh man, I'm getting close on this. I hope they don't shut me down in November or December. I need money for Christmas. And, we're getting to that time of the year where a surprise can really mess you up financially.
That's actually very powerful, and thank you for that. I'll add this for anyone listening, both Expedio payments merchants or MSD clients, we're here to help. Whether you're an agent, an ISO, or a merchant directly, reach out. Let us put the right strategies in place before the VAMP rules become a problem. Now, Peter, tell me, what do you think?
I think that's well said, AJ. You hit the nail on the head. The worst position for these guys to be in, is reactive. You got to be proactive. You know, from what I'm hearing through the grapevine, these changes have been an eye opener for a lot of people that, thought they understood risk. And now that risk tolerance is changing a little bit, might not know everything about it. They might not be paying attention to it. They might not even know about it. So it's really important to take a deep dive into the business, understand your clients' needs, set them up for success with the right provider.
Well said. Thank you very much. Thanks for the deep dive thus far, Peter. Now, that has been a huge eye opener for those. And just wrapping up, I want to give you guys something that you guys want to pay attention to. One, thresholds 0.9 to 1%, and your chargebacks need to be under 30% to stay under that actual radar. Your actual acquires liability pressure, you got to understand with fraudulent transaction monitoring, that will help reduce a lot of the problems that you may have with built-in fraud filters, different things, AI risk scoring, and those things. So we urge you to reach out and follow up later on for our follow-up meeting. Now tomorrow or the day after, we have scheduled. I don't know. I don't have my schedule with me, but we have the actual CBD vape and smoke shop issue coming up.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that one. That's quite interesting with the way that new law affects merchants who vend to Texas in that space. Really important to get that on the line too.
Fantastic. And actually, I want to take a moment and thank Merchant Service Depot for coming on board today and allowing me to interview you guys and hear where you guys are going with the future of your processing and relationships. I'm sure, being ahead of the curve is important. Again, you guys, the link will be in the bio for the post for how you can get in touch with either myself or Peter. Again, we want to thank MSD for coming out today and to our sponsor, Expedio Payments LLC, making it happen for our podcast. And I'd also like to give a big shout out to the production team coming through as always. I actually am paying attention to the chat right now. Great question. Yeah. So, all right, perfect. So, guys, I want to take a moment again. Pete, if anything you want to throw in before we head up.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just kind of leave it in one sentence, I'd say if you're a high risk merchant and you're worried about VAMP or you're worried about the Visa fraud monitoring program, the VFMP, don't wait until the fines and the shutdown hit. Reach out to AJ at Expedio today. Protect your business. Reduce your chargeback. keep your business running smoothly.
Fantastic. Hey, I want to thank everybody for giving a shout out to us on the chats. Everybody who's paying attention, I really want to take a moment and thank you guys for tuning in. It's much appreciated. Again, we really feel at the end of the day, anything that you guys do that helps support us is appreciated. Pete himself and myself are enjoying our time spending it, sharing our knowledge with you guys. We look forward to spending more. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me at AJ at Expedio Payments LLC.com. Again, it's AJ at Expedio Payments LLC.com. Pete, you want to throw your email out there or where they can reach you?
Sure. Mine is Pete at merchantservicedepot.com. Feel free to reach
Okay.
out to me with any questions that you guys have.